When I find my daughter-in-law's phone ringing that fall morning, I never imagine that little device holds the secret that'll destroy my whole family. Shaking, I look at the lit screen and see a photo of my husband dead for over 5 years, smiling next to a message that says, "Thursday, same time, I can't wait to see you again." It's like the world stops spinning and the air in my lungs freezes. But before I go on, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and drop in the comments, where are you watching this video from? We love knowing how far our stories are reaching. That Tuesday morning starts like any other. Fall in the Rocky Mountains of Colorado paints the peaks in golden and red hues, and the chilly breeze hints that winter's knocking soon. Emily, my daughter-in-law, comes over for breakfast with me like she does every Tuesday since David's death. A tradition she keeps religiously, something I always see as an act of compassion, a way to not leave me alone in this house that's way too big for a 68-year-old widow. "I'm heading to the market real quick, Linda," she says after coffee, grabbing her purse. "Need me to pick up anything for you?" I shake my head, thanking her kindness like I always do. Emily is too perfect. Hair always styled, makeup flawless even for a simple breakfast clothes that look straight out of a magazine. My son Michael is so lucky, I always think, or at least that's what I believe. 15 minutes after she leaves, I hear the sound, a persistent buzz coming from the sideboard near the front door. Her cell phone got left behind. It's none of my business, of course. I've never been one to pry into other people's lives, especially not someone's privacy. But the phone rings again, more insistent. Emily must be expecting an important call, I think, walking over to the sideboard to check. That's when I see it. David's face lighting up the screen. My husband dead for over 5 years, right there alive on my daughter-in-law's cell phone. And it's not an old photo taken when he was still alive. It's David in a blue shirt I've never seen in a place I don't recognize. My hands shake as I pick up the phone. The message before says, "Thursday, same time. I can't wait to see you again." The world around me starts spinning. I feel the blood turn to ice in my veins while my brain struggles to process what I'm seeing. How can there be a recent photo of my dead husband? How can he be sending messages to Emily? Is this some kind of sick joke? I shouldn't do it. I know I shouldn't. Respect has always been a pillar in my life. But something stronger pushes me. I unlock the phone. Emily always uses my grandson's birthday as her password, something I've noticed countless times. The messaging app opens, revealing a long string of conversations with someone labeled just as D. I start scrolling, my hands shaking, my heart pounding in my chest like it wants to escape. "Thanks for yesterday, you're amazing. I miss your touch. Is Michael getting suspicious? We need to be more careful. The old lady doesn't suspect a thing. She's never been too sharp." The old lady. Me. They're talking about me. I keep scrolling up to older messages. 2 years of conversations. 3, 4, 5. The first messages date back to 6 months before David's death. My husband and my daughter-in-law, the man I loved for 4 decades, and the woman my son adores. Reality hits me like a punch to the gut. They were having an affair. David and Emily were having an affair. But that doesn't make sense. David is dead. So who's sending these messages to Emily? Who's using my husband's photo? I scroll even further up, searching for answers, and find photos. Dozens of them. David and Emily together, hugging, smiling at the camera. In some, I recognize the setting. It's our old barn, the one David said he sold years before his death. In others, they're in a cabin I've never seen. The dates on the photos make me gasp. The most recent is from just a week ago. A wave of nausea hits me. It's not possible. Unless... That's when I hear the sound of a car in the driveway. Emily is back. I quickly place the phone exactly where I found it and head back to the kitchen, my heart beating so hard I think she might hear it. I take a deep breath, trying to control my face, my hands, my breathing. I can't let her know that I know, not until I understand what's going on. The door opens. "Linda," she calls in that perfectly polite voice. "I think I left my cell here." "It's on the sideboard," I reply, amazed at the calm in my voice. As I hear her footsteps approaching the kitchen, I try to process the whirlwind of thoughts. My husband had an affair with my daughter-in-law, but he's dead. So who's pretending to be him? Who's using his photo? And why is Emily still responding like it's really him? Ah, here it is. she says, appearing in the kitchen doorway, with the phone in hand, flashing that perfect smile that now looks like a grotesque mask. It'd be a disaster to be without it today. I watch her face, looking for signs of nervousness, of guilt, of anything that gives away the secret I now know. But there's nothing. Emily is a perfect actress. "You sure you don't need anything from the market?" she asks, tucking the phone into her purse. "I'm sure," I reply, trying to smile. "Drive safe." As soon as the door closes behind her, I collapse into the kitchen chair. The world I know just crumbles. My husband, the man I shared a whole life with, betrayed me with my own daughter-in-law. And now, years after his death, someone continues this sick game. I need to uncover the truth, no matter how painful. I need to know who's behind this. For me, for Michael, for our family. But how to start? Who to turn to? Who would believe an elderly widow with an absurd story about messages from the dead? I'm alone in this search for the truth. But one thing I know for sure. Next Thursday I'll find out who's meeting Emily, and then finally I'll understand what happened to my family. That night I can't sleep. The image of David's face on Emily's phone haunts me every time I close my eyes. How did I not notice anything all these years? They were right under my nose, and I, blinded by trust, never suspected. The Thursdays. That's when David said he was going bowling with his friends, an activity he started just before he got sick. "It's good for me, Linda," he used to say. "The doctor told me I need to move more for my heart." And I, the devoted wife I always was, just smiled and wished him fun. Now it all makes sense. There was no bowling. There was Emily. There was betrayal. The next morning, my son Michael calls. His voice sounds tired, like it has for years. After David's death, he took over managing the ranch, a responsibility he never really wanted. "Mom, I'm swinging by Dad's office to pick up some documents. Need anything from town?" I hesitate for a moment. Could I tell him what I discovered? No. It'd be rash. I need concrete proof, not just messages on a phone I saw without permission. "No, sweetie, I'm good." When I hang up, an idea hits me. David's office. If there's more evidence about this, it'll be there. He was always methodical, kept everything. Maybe there's something that can help me understand who's pretending to be him now. I head down to the basement where the office is. Michael rarely touches his father's personal stuff, preferring to use only what's needed for the ranch. The rest stays untouched, like a dusty shrine to a life that's gone. The key to the bottom drawer is still hidden behind the painting on the wall. David was always predictable with his hiding spots. Inside the drawer, I find what I expect: organized folders, old documents, some letters. Nothing incriminating at first glance. But then, tucked under a stack of bank statements, I see a small wooden box I've never seen before. My heart races as I open it with trembling fingers. Inside are photographs, not the family photos that decorate our house, but images of Emily and David together, in a rustic cabin overlooking a lake, hugging, smiling, happy in a way I hadn't seen David in years before his death. On the back of each photo, dates written in his handwriting. The most recent is from 3 weeks before his death. At the bottom of the box, I find an envelope. Inside, a deed. The cabin by Echo Lake wasn't sold like David told me. He kept it secret, a nest for his meetings with Emily. I want to scream, break things, burn those photos. But the pain turns into something colder, more calculated. I need to know who's continuing this charade. Who's pretending to be my dead husband? I put everything back except for one photo I slip into my pocket. Evidence. For myself, so I don't doubt what I've discovered. If the pain tries to convince me, it's all just a terrible mistake. When Michael arrives a few hours later, I manage to keep my composure. I watch him as he searches for the documents he needs, wondering if he knows. If it's possible my own son knows about his wife's affair with his father. No, I can't believe that. Michael has always been honest, upright, like David used to be, or like I thought he was. "Find what you were looking for?" I ask when he's done. "Yeah, just some old deeds. We're thinking of selling that lot on the north end. We're not using it, and the offer's good." I nod like I care about land lots and deals right now. "Mom, you okay? You seem distant." I force a smile. "Just a bad night's sleep. You know how hard this time of year is for me." It's October, close to the anniversary of David's death. Michael nods, understanding. How easy it is to lie when people already have an explanation ready for your behavior. Emily sends her regards, he says as he gets ready to leave. She's busy with a landscaping project for the Guzman family. That's why she hasn't come by as much. More lies. She doesn't come because she's busy meeting my husband's ghost somewhere. After Michael leaves, I decide I can't wait until Thursday. I need to go to the cabin now. See this place with my own eyes, the scene of so much betrayal. The address is on the deed I found. Echo Lake, about 40 minutes by car from here. I grab the keys to my old Ford and drive off before I lose my nerve. The road to the lake winds through pines and mountains, gradually leaving civilization behind, the kind of place where secrets can thrive without witnesses. When I finally find the property entrance marked only by an unlabeled mailbox, my stomach is in knots. The cabin is exactly like in the photos, small, rustic, with a porch facing the lake. It looks like it's from a postcard, the kind of place lovers come to escape the world, the kind of place my husband chose to betray everything we built together. No cars are parked. Apparently no one's there. I approach slowly, ready to make up an excuse if someone shows up. I climb the porch steps and peer through the windows. The interior is spotlessly clean and organized. It doesn't look abandoned, but there are no obvious signs of recent occupation. I try the door locked, as expected. I didn't bring the cabin key if it's among David's things. For a moment, I consider breaking a window, but that would give away my presence. I need to be smarter. I circle the cabin looking for another way in and find a back window that seems less secure. With a little pressure, it opens. I don't recognize myself in that moment. Linda Thompson, 68 years old, breaking into a property like a criminal. But I've already crossed so many lines since seeing that message on Emily's phone that one more won't make a difference. The cabin's interior is surprisingly cozy. A small living room with a fireplace, a modest kitchen, a bedroom with a queen bed made up with bedding that seems too expensive for a place like this. Everywhere signs of recent occupation. A half-finished bottle of wine in the kitchen, current magazines on the coffee table, a woman's coat draped over a chair. In the bedroom, I open the closet and find clothes, men's and women's. Among them, I recognize some of Emily's outfits, and then I freeze. Hanging on the men's side are shirts I recognize instantly. Shirts of David's. Not just similar, but exactly the same ones he wore. Even a blue plaid shirt I bought him myself for our last Christmas together. How is this possible? I was sure all of David's clothes were donated after his death. I sorted them myself, crying over each piece as I boxed them up. With shaking hands, I touched the familiar fabric. The feel brings back memories David wearing that shirt while chopping wood. David smiling as I adjusted the collar. David, lying, betraying, destroying our life together. Something catches my eye on the nightstand. A face-down picture frame. I pick it up and feel my blood turn to ice. It's a recent photo, no more than a few weeks old, judging by the fall foliage visible through the window in the background. It shows Emily smiling, hugged by a man who looks impossibly like David. Older than at the time of his death, with more wrinkles around the eyes, grayer hair at the temples, but undeniably David, or someone who could be his identical twin. But David had no siblings. He was an only child like me. There was no close relative who could be mistaken for him. So who is this man, and why is he pretending to be my husband? The sound of a car approaching snaps me out of it. Someone's coming. In a panic, I place the photo back exactly as I found it and run to the living room. Through the window, I see an unfamiliar car parking. A man gets out his back to me carrying grocery bags. I can't be seen here. I run to the back window I entered through and slip out as quietly as possible. I circle the cabin, staying low, and make it to my car without being noticed. With my heart racing, I drive back down the dirt road until I'm a safe distance away. I pull over on the shoulder, my hands shaking so bad I can barely hold the wheel. What I saw defies all logic. A man who looks like David wearing David's clothes living a secret life with my son's wife. As I try to regain my composure, a terrible possibility starts forming in my mind. What if David isn't really dead? What if his whole death was staged? But no, I saw him in the coffin. I touched his cold hand. I watched as they lowered his body into the grave. Unless it wasn't him. I feel the world spin around me as the truth starts taking shape, a truth more terrible than anything I could have imagined. The next morning comes without me sleeping a wink. I spend the whole night replaying the last 5 years in my mind, examining every detail, every memory from the days leading up to David's supposed death. He died at home from a massive heart attack. I was in town shopping. When I got back, I found him collapsed in the office. It was Emily who called the ambulance, while I, in shock, held his cold hand. Emily, who happened to stop by to drop off some documents Michael had asked for. Emily, who handled the whole situation with almost clinical efficiency while I fell apart. I remember the funeral, the closed casket. "He wouldn't want people to see him like this," the funeral director said. At the time, it seemed sensible. Now it sounds like part of a terrible conspiracy. One idea fixes in my mind. I need to see David's grave. I need to be sure there's something or someone really buried there. I dress mechanically and grab the car keys. It's early, the sun just rising, and the road to the cemetery is deserted. Dew still covers the headstones when I park and walk to the spot where my husband supposedly rests. David James Thompson, 1950 to 2020. Beloved husband, father, and grandfather. I stand there staring at the cold marble, feeling like a fool. What do I expect to find? An empty grave, a note saying, "I fooled you." The truth is, even if I wanted to, I can't just dig up the coffin to check what's inside. On the way home, I decide to detour. I park in front of the police station home to Officer Johnson, a man we've known for years. If there's anyone I can trust in this town, it's him. Johnson greets me in his cluttered office, offering coffee in a mug that desperately needs washing. "What can I do for you, Linda Trouble at the ranch?" "Actually, it's something a bit unusual." I start not sure how to explain. "Hypothetically speaking, how would someone well fake their own death?" Johnson raises his eyebrows. "That's a pretty specific question for hypothetical." "Just curiosity. I've been reading a lot of mystery novels lately." I lie, trying to sound casual. "Well, it's not as easy as the movies make it seem," he replies, leaning back in his chair. "You need a death certificate, which requires a corrupt or tricked doctor. You need a body, or a convincing explanation for no body. Then there's all the paperwork, Social Security, identity." "But is it possible?" "Possible, yes. Easy. No way." He studies me closely. "Linda, you sure everything's okay?" "Yes. Just research for a book club," I reply hastily, standing up. "Thanks for your time, officer." As I leave the station, I know I'm about to cross a dangerous line. What I'm about to do will put me at risk, but I see no alternative. I need to know the truth. At the hardware store, I buy a small wireless security camera, the kind used for monitoring vacation homes. The salesman explains how to set it up and connect it to my phone. It's not exactly James Bond, but it'll serve my purpose. In the afternoon, I head back to the cabin. The car I saw the day before is gone. Moving quickly, I enter through the same back window and install the camera in a discreet spot in the living room where it'll have a good view of the entrance and part of the interior. The battery will last about 48 hours, enough time to find out who'll come on Thursday. As I leave, I notice something I overlooked in my rushed visit yesterday. A small medicine box in the bathroom cabinet. Heart meds prescribed to a James Sullivan. A pseudonym so close to David James it seems almost brazen. I drive home with a growing certainty that I'm about to uncover something terrible. On Wednesday, I get a call from Michael. He and Emily are coming over for dinner the next day, Thursday. A chill runs down my spine. "What time are you thinking?" I ask, keeping my voice neutral. "Around 7, if that's okay with you." 7 at night. That means Emily's secret meeting will be earlier. What if the man who looks like David is planning to come to dinner too? Would they be that bold? Or would she just make an excuse to slip out later? "Sure, I'll make something special," I reply, my mind racing with possibilities. I spend that night compulsively checking the camera app on my phone. Nothing yet. The cabin stays empty and silent. Thursday morning, I get a notification. Someone entered the cabin. With trembling fingers, I open the app and watch the feed. It's Emily, carrying a small suitcase. She moves through the cabin with the familiarity of someone at home, arranging flowers, lighting candles, setting the scene for a rendezvous. About an hour later, the door opens again. The man who enters makes my heart stop. Tall, graying hair, a walk I'd recognize anywhere. If it weren't impossible, I'd swear it's David. Emily runs to hug him, kissing him deeply. They talk for a few minutes, but the camera's audio is too weak to catch their words. Then, hand in hand, they head to the bedroom out of the camera's view. Nausea rises in my throat. Even after seeing the messages, the photos, part of me still hopes for some innocent explanation. Now there's no denying it. But who is that man? Why does he look so much like David? And what's Emily's role in all this? I need to confront them. I can't keep living with these doubts eating me up inside. I grab my car and drive to the cabin, determined to finally uncover the truth, no matter how painful. When I arrive, I see Emily's car parked next to a truck I don't recognize. For a moment, sitting in the car, I consider calling Michael or Officer Johnson. But what would I say? That I suspect my dead husband is having an affair with my daughter-in-law? They'd think I'm completely crazy. No, I'll have to face this alone. I get out of the car and walk to the cabin. I can hear soft music coming from inside. Frank Sinatra, David's favorite music. My heart pounds so hard I think it might tear through my chest. With one last moment of hesitation, I knock on the door. The music stops abruptly. Silence. Then footsteps approaching. The door opens and there he is, the man from the photos, the man who looks so much like David that for a hallucinating moment I believe my husband has come back from the dead. But looking closer, I notice small differences. A scar on his right eyebrow that David didn't have. Deeper wrinkles around the mouth, hair a shade darker than David's. His face pales when he sees me. It's not the reaction of a stranger surprised by an unexpected visitor. It's the look of someone who saw a ghost. His ghost. "Linda," he murmurs, his voice almost identical to David's, but with a slightly different tone. He knows my name. Before I can respond, Emily appears behind him, wearing only an oversized shirt. One of David's shirts I recognized in the closet. Her face shifts from surprise to horror when she sees me. "What are you doing here?" she asks, her voice shaking. "I think I should be asking that," I reply, surprisingly calm. "Who are you?" I direct the question at the man. He opens his mouth to answer, but Emily interrupts. "Linda, you have to leave. Now. This isn't something you want to know." Actually, it's exactly what I want to know. I'm tired of lies. Who is this man, and why is he wearing my dead husband's clothes? Why is he pretending to be David? The man and Emily exchange glances, a silent communication that only fuels my rage. "It's better if you come in," he says, finally stepping aside. I enter the cabin feeling strangely detached from reality. Like I'm watching a play where I've suddenly become an unrehearsed character. "I'm going to get dressed," Emily mutters, disappearing into the bedroom. I'm left alone with the stranger who has my husband's face. He watches me with a complex expression. Fear, guilt, something like compassion. "Who are you?" I repeat. "My name is Richard," he replies, his voice low. "Richard Thompson. I was David's twin brother." I feel like the ground disappears under my feet. Impossible. David had no brothers. He was an only child. Richard gives a sad smile. "That's what he always said, wasn't it? David was always good at reinventing his past as needed." "I met his parents. They never mentioned another son. Why didn't they know?" He sits on the sofa, gesturing for me to do the same. I stay standing. "We were separated at birth. Closed adoption. I grew up in Houston with my adoptive parents. I only found out about David 6 years ago." 6 years. A year before David's death. The timeline fits, but it's all so absurd, my mind struggles to process. "How did you find him?" "I didn't. He found me." Richard takes a deep breath. "I had cancer. Needed a bone marrow transplant. The doctors suggested searching for biological relatives. When the search results came back, I learned I had an identical twin brother, David." Emily returns now fully dressed, her face a mask of forced calm. "You two met." I continue, trying to piece it together. "And then what?" David reached out to me, Richard goes on. At first, it was incredible. You know, finding someone so like me, not just physically. We had the same gestures, the same tastes. Even our medical histories were similar. Except for the cancer, I observe. Yes, except that. We talked a lot on the phone, started visiting each other. That's when I met Emily. I look at my daughter-in-law, who's pale but keeps her chin up. You betrayed my son with the uncle he didn't even know existed. It's not that simple, she replies, her voice cold. Then explain it. Make it simple for me. Richard shoots Emily a warning look. Let's tell her everything. She deserves to know. Emily crosses her arms but nods. David donated marrow to me, Richard continues. He saved my life, but as I recovered, something changed in him. He started talking about how he was dissatisfied with his life, how he felt he'd made wrong choices, married the wrong person, chosen the wrong path. I feel a sharp pain in my chest at those words. David never showed dissatisfaction with me. At least I thought he didn't. He had a wife, a son, a grandson. I argue, a ranch he loved. How was that the wrong path? Richard looks genuinely uncomfortable. I can't explain his feelings. I only know what he told me, that he felt trapped, that he wanted freedom. And then he met Emily. I conclude the pieces finally clicking, his own son's wife. Emily steps forward. I didn't plan to fall for David. It happened. Michael and I were already distant for years. We stayed together only for Daniel. We started an affair, she continues. We met here on Thursdays. And then you decided to get rid of me, I say to Richard. Fake his death, assume my husband's identity so you could have his woman. Richard shakes his head vehemently. No, it wasn't like that. I wasn't even around when David died. I was in remission but still recovering in Houston. So he really died. The question comes out as a whisper. Yes, Emily replies, from a heart attack just like you think, only it wasn't as sudden as it seemed. What do you mean? Emily takes a deep breath. David had been planning to leave us, leave you Michael, the life he had. He wanted to sell the ranch, start over somewhere with me. The betrayal is so deep I can hardly breathe. And what happened? Did he change his mind? He had a minor heart attack while with me, she continues. We managed to hide it. The doctor said he needed to reduce stress, take his meds, but he got obsessed with leaving soon, said life was too short. Then he started planning an exit, Richard interrupts. He reached out to me again, proposed something crazy that I assume his identity after he died, said he had substantial life insurance he could split with me. I refused, of course, he continues. Said he was insane. Said if he wanted to leave his family, just file for divorce like a normal person. But David, he didn't want to deal with the scandal, the asset division. He wanted to just disappear and start over. But he died before he could do that, I conclude. Yes, Emily confirms. That day he really had a heart attack, only he wasn't taking his meds properly, maybe on purpose. I'll never know. Nausea rises in my throat. You found him dead? Yes. He'd called me earlier saying he didn't feel well. When I got there, he was on the office floor. He was already gone. A terrible thought hits me. Could you have saved him if you'd called for help right away? Emily looks away. The answer is clear in her silence. And after I panicked, she says, I knew if they investigated, they might uncover us. Then I remembered his plan about Richard. Richard runs a hand through his hair, a gesture so familiar it makes my heart ache. Emily called me weeks after the funeral, he explains. Told me about David's plan about the life insurance. I still refused. Didn't want any part of that madness. But then what? Then my cancer came back, he says simply. Stage 4. Doctors gave me 6 months a year at most. No hope for a cure this time. But that was 5 years ago, I observe. Yes, I joined an experimental clinical trial. It worked better than anyone expected. I've been in full remission for 4 years. When Richard got better, Emily continues, we decided to give David's plan a shot. Not for the money, but because we fell in love. I look at them both, unable to fathom the audacity. You betrayed my husband with my son. then betrayed my son with my husband. And now you're betraying my son with my husband's twin brother no one knew existed. Emily has the decency to look ashamed. I don't expect you to understand or forgive. And the life insurance, where did it go? It's in a frozen account, Richard replies. We never touched it. I know it seems impossible to believe, but we didn't do this for money. Then why? For a second chance, he says simply. For Emily, for me. After nearly dying twice, you see life differently. And what about my son, my grandson? Don't they deserve a second chance too? A life without lies. Emily looks at her own hands. I'm leaving Michael soon. I've already started laying the groundwork. An amicable divorce, shared custody of Daniel. But you're not going to tell him about Richard, about David. No. She looks me straight in the eyes. And I hope you won't either. It's an absurd request. How can I keep such a monstrous secret? How can I look my son in the eyes knowing what I know? But then I remember David, the man I thought I knew for 40 years, the man who apparently lived a double life for years, planning to abandon me, fake his own death, start over, without looking back. Had it been that easy for him, that easy to discard decades together? Did David ever love me? The question slips out before I can hold it back, exposing my vulnerability. Richard looks genuinely distressed. I can't speak for his feelings. I only knew him for a year before his death. But he talked about you, with respect. Respect, not love, not fondness, not regret. Respect like you talk about a competent coworker. He was unhappy for years, Emily adds in a misguided attempt to soften the blow. Said you two were together out of habit, not love. Her words hit me like a slap. I'd love David every day of our life together, even in the tough times, even in the fights, even in the long silent nights. Always loved him, and all that time to him, I was just a habit. Are you coming to dinner tonight? I ask Emily, changing the subject abruptly. She blinks, confused by the shift. Yes, I'll be there at 7 with Michael. And then you'll come back here to Richard. She hesitates, then nods. Michael has an early meeting tomorrow in Denver. He's staying the night there. Daniel's staying at a friend's. I plan to come back here after. The cold, calculated way she plans her betrayals disgusts me. But then who am I to judge? I've been just as blind, just as foolish. I need to think. I say, finally standing up about all this. Richard and Emily exchange glances again. That silent communication that excludes me. Whatever you decide, we'll respect it, Richard says. I just ask you to think about the consequences for everyone involved. I leave the cabin without answering, my mind a whirlwind. In the car, I finally let the tears come. Tears for everything I've lost, for everything I never really had. David never loved me like I loved him. He planned to abandon me. And if he hadn't died, he would have vanished from my life, leaving me forever with unanswered questions. I was the fool in this story. The naive old lady everyone deceived. I drive back home mechanically, preparing for the dinner I'll have to face in a few hours. A dinner where I'll need to look my son in the eyes, knowing what his wife is doing behind his back. Knowing that in a matter of days, his life will be turned upside down. As I prepare the food, a terrible idea starts forming in my mind, an idea born of pain and rage. If I can't have justice, maybe I can have something else. In the kitchen cabinet behind the canned goods is the old bottle of sleeping pills. Strong pills the doctor prescribed after David's death when sleep escaped me. Pills that in enough quantity could make someone sleep forever. I hold the bottle in my shaking hands, considering dark possibilities. Would it be that easy? Some pills in Emily's wine, an accidental overdose, sad but not surprising. After all, she's been so distraught lately. I open the bottle, pour some pills into my hand, small, white, harmless looking. They could solve everything. They could avenge me against David, against Emily, against all the lies. But then I think of Michael, of Daniel, of their lives after another tragedy. I think of the kind of person I'd become if I go down that path. With a trembling sigh, I put the pills back in the bottle and the bottle back in the cabinet. No, that won't be the justice I seek. I won't stoop to that level. At 7 sharp, I hear Michael's car pulling up. I force a smile, preparing for the performance of my life. I open the door for my son and daughter-in-law, watching how Emily keeps that perfect smile as if she hadn't been in another man's arms just hours ago. "Mom, you okay?" Michael asks, concerned. "You look pale." "Just a little tired," I reply, leading them to the dining room where the table is set. "Had a busy day." During dinner, I watch them, Michael kind and oblivious as always, talking about the ranch, about future plans that will soon be shattered. Emily, elegant and controlled, responding at the right moments, smiling at the right moments, the perfect actress. "And how are things between you two?" I ask, abruptly interrupting Michael mid-story about the new tractor. He looks confused by the interruption. Emily freezes momentarily, a wine glass halfway to her mouth. "What do you mean, Mom?" "The marriage, you two. Seems like you hardly see each other lately." Michael shrugs uncomfortably. "We're fine, busy, but fine. Right, hon?" Emily flashes that perfect smile. "Of course, just normal phases in any marriage." "And are you happy, Michael?" I press. "Truly happy." My son looks at me with growing concern. "Mom, what's going on? Why these questions?" I look straight at Emily as I answer. I just want to make sure my son is living the life he deserves, with someone who truly loves and respects him. Emily holds my gaze, but I see a flash of fear in her eyes. She knows I'm issuing a warning. "Of course he is," Michael replies, oblivious to the tension between his mother and wife. "I have everything I need." He takes Emily's hand across the table, a gesture that probably feels natural to him. She smiles, but I see how her fingers barely return the touch. Dinner continues the conversation, shifting to safer topics. When we finish dessert, Michael announces they need to leave. He has to get up early for the trip to Denver. "Emily, could you help me with the dishes before you go?" I ask. "Michael, why don't you check that porch pipe I mentioned? It's dripping again." My son nods and heads out, leaving me alone with Emily in the kitchen. As soon as we hear the front door close, she turns to me. "What have you decided?" she asks, her voice low and tense. I start stacking the plates calmly. "You know, for years I believed I had a perfect marriage, that David and I were happy, that I knew the man I shared my life with. Linda, but it was all a lie." I continue, ignoring her. "He never loved me like I loved him. He was with me out of habit, and he planned to abandon me." Emily stays silent, waiting. "I'm not going to tell Michael about you and Richard," I say finally. "Or about you and David, not because you deserve my discretion, but because my son doesn't deserve that kind of pain." She lets out a sigh of relief. "Thank you." "Don't thank me," I reply, facing her. "I'm going to let you tell him about the divorce your way. I'm going to let you build whatever narrative you want to explain why you're leaving your marriage. But if you hurt my son more than necessary, if you try to take Daniel from him, if you cause any scandal that affects his reputation in this town, I'll tell everything, every sordid detail. Understood?" She nods, pale. "Perfectly." And as for Richard, I feel a lump in my throat. Tell him never ever to cross my path again. Seeing his face is like seeing a ghost that reminds me of every moment I was deceived. "He'll understand," she whispers. Michael returns, then interrupting our conversation. "Pipe's fixed now, Mom. Just needed tightening." "Thanks, sweetie." I force a smile. As I walk them to the door, my heart aches for what's coming. Michael will soon lose his wife. His world will be shaken. But he'll survive. He's stronger than I was. "Mom, you sure you're okay?" Michael asks at the door, worried. "You seem different today." "Just tired," I repeat, hugging him tight. "I love you, son, more than anything." "I love you too, Mom." Emily gives me a quick mechanical hug, avoiding my eyes. I watch them get in the car, drive away, the last sight of the couple they pretend to be. When I go back inside, the house feels emptier and quieter than ever. For 5 years, I lived with the memory of a man I thought loved me. Now even that's taken from me. There's nothing to remember fondly, nothing to comfort me on lonely nights. I sit in David's chair in the office looking at photos of our life together. Every smile, every moment I thought special, every anniversary, vacation, Christmas, all lies. Or was there truth hidden somewhere among the falsehoods? Maybe I'll never know. That night, for the first time in 5 years, I don't cry for losing David. Instead, I cry for the loss of the woman I was trusting, loved, secure in her place in the world. That woman died today in the cabin by the lake, and in her place someone new is born, someone wiser, more cautious, someone who'll never be deceived again. A week later, as promised, Emily tells Michael about the divorce. He shows up at my door that night, eyes red-faced, devastated. "She said she doesn't love me anymore," he mutters, sinking into the sofa. "Said we've been living a lie for years, that she doesn't want to waste her life." I pour him a generous shot of whiskey, the same his father used to drink. "I'm so sorry, son. Did you notice something was wrong?" I hesitate. What can I say? I suspected she wasn't happy. But no, I didn't know this was coming. "She wants joint custody of Daniel. Said she's moving to Seattle, has a job opportunity there." He downs the whiskey in one gulp. Who just decides to move to another state like that out of nowhere? Someone who's been planning it for a long time, I think. Someone who already has a life waiting there. "What are you going to do?" He shakes his head, lost. "What can I do? I can't force her to stay. I can't force her to love me." And Daniel, how's he handling it? Upset, confused. Emily talked to him earlier today before telling me. He laughs bitterly. She had it all planned. When I get home today, she'll already be gone, staying the night at her sister's in Denver. At least that's what she said. At her sister's. Or at the cabin in Richard's arms. Rage bubbles inside me, but I push it down. My son needs support now, not more pain. "You can stay here tonight if you want. Your old room's always ready." He nods gratefully. "Thanks, Mom. I don't think I could sleep in that house tonight." That night, I hear Michael pacing the hallway, restless like he did as a teenager when something bothered him. I think of Emily, probably in Richard's arms, now planning their new life together. I think of David, who died still planning his escape. And I think of myself carrying the weight of those secrets forever. In the weeks that follow, I watch my son navigate the painful divorce process. Emily keeps her word. It's quick, amicable, no scandals. Michael keeps the house. She takes her share in cash. Joint custody of Daniel, with the boy spending most time with his father since Emily will be settling in Seattle. She leaves on a Tuesday, exactly a month after I discovered the truth. She comes to say goodbye, a gesture I see more as a performance for her imaginary audience than genuine courtesy. "Goodbye, Linda," she says at my door, perfectly put together as always. "Thanks for everything." "Don't thank me," I reply coldly. "Just go, and don't hurt my family anymore." She nods, a flash of guilt finally cracking that perfect facade. "I'll keep my word. Michael and Daniel will never know the truth." I watch her car drive away for the last time, feeling a strange relief. Part of the lie is finally over. But the secret will stay with me forever. Michael and Daniel move into my house in the following weeks. Temporarily, my son says, until we adjust to the new situation. But I know it's more than that. Their house is full of memories of voids left by Emily's departure. Seeing my grandson every day is a balm for my wounded soul. He's 13 now, the age when kids start pulling away from grandma hugs. But he still lets me hug him occasionally, especially on tough days. "Why did Mom leave?" he asks one night while I help him with math homework. How to answer that? Sometimes people change Daniel. They make hard choices even they don't fully understand. She said she still loves me, that nothing will change between us. And she does love you, I'm sure of that. It was one of the few certainties I had about Emily. Her love for Daniel seemed genuine, even if everything else was a lie. I'm going to Seattle next month. For summer break, she's already looking at schools for when I live with her part-time. I nod, faking support. It'll be an adventure. "Grandma?" He hesitates, his young face worried. "Mom said she has a friend there, a special friend. I think that's why she left." My heart tightens. What else did she say about this friend? Not much. Just that they've known each other for a while, and one day she'll introduce me. He frowns. "Do you think she cheated on Dad?" The innocent question catches me off guard. How I wish I could protect him from harsh adult truths. Daniel, relationships are complicated. Sometimes good people make wrong choices, but what's important is your parents love you no matter what happens between them. He seems to accept this vague answer, turning back to his homework, but I know this won't be the last time we face this issue. A month later, I get a call from Emily. It's the first time we've spoken since she left. Daniel's coming to Seattle tomorrow. She says, no preamble. Michael's putting him on the plane. He'll stay with me for 3 weeks. I know. There's an awkward pause. Richard and I think it's better to postpone the introduction. Daniel needs time to adjust to the separation before meeting someone new in my life. Wise of you, I reply, not hiding the sarcasm. Linda. Her voice drops. I want you to know we're moving. Farther away. Richard got an offer in Portland. We'll be over 5 hours from Seattle. And Daniel, the joint custody. It'll continue as agreed. I'll make the trip when it's his turn with me. It's better this way, less chance of complications. Complications. Such a polite word for the possibility of someone recognizing Richard as David's identical twin. How's Michael? She asks, with what seems like genuine concern. How do you think? Devastated, confused, trying to understand where he went wrong in a marriage that, as far as he knows, was just going through a rough patch. She sighs. I know you'll never believe it, but I do care. And you, I never meant to cause so much pain. But you did anyway. Another silence. You're right, and I'll have to live with that. She hesitates. Just one more thing. The anniversary of David's death is coming up. As always, we'll visit the grave. Richard wanted to know if it'd be too painful for you if we left flowers too. From a distance, of course. After you and Michael have gone. The audacity leaves me speechless for a moment. You're asking permission for my husband's secret twin brother, who you're cheating on my son with, to leave flowers at the grave of the man who betrayed us all. Forget it, she murmurs. It was a dumb idea. Emily, I say before she can hang up. One last question. Did you ever really love Michael at some point? There's a long pause. In the beginning, yes. He was kind, stable, everything I thought I wanted. But then I met David, and it was different, more intense, more real. She sighs. I don't expect you to understand or forgive. I just hope someday you find peace. She hangs up, and I stare at the silent phone. Peace. As if that's possible now. On the anniversary of David's death, Michael and I visit the cemetery like we always do. We bring flowers, lilies, his favorites, or at least what I always believed were his favorites. Now I doubt even that. We stand silently before the headstone. What is really under that cold stone, the body of the man I loved and who betrayed me, or someone else part of a scheme that never went beyond David's sick imagination. After Michael walks away to take a lap around the cemetery, a ritual he's developed in recent years, a private moment to connect with his father, I'm left alone with the headstone. You lied to me our whole life together, I whisper to the cold marble. You made me believe in a marriage that only existed in my head. You made me believe I was loved, when really I was just convenient. Tears come not from sadness, but rage. Rage for all the wasted years, for all the moments I thought special that meant nothing to him. But you know what I survived. I survived your betrayal, your death, the truth, and I'll keep surviving. For Michael, for Daniel, for me. Michael returns his eyes red from held-back tears. I hug him, feeling his big body tremble slightly. I never understood why he was so distant sometimes, he murmurs. Why it seemed like there were parts of him I could never reach. Because there were, I think. Parts he kept for Emily, for his secrets, for the life he planned away from us. He loved you in his way, I reply, the lie bitter on my tongue. One more lie to protect my son. When we get home, we find a wreath of flowers on the front door. Red roses. David's favorites, as I well know. No card, no identification. But I know who sent them. That's odd, Michael comments. Who would have sent them? Probably someone from town, I reply, taking the arrangement and setting it aside. You know how people remember him this time of year. That night, after Michael and Daniel go to bed, I take the roses out to the backyard. One by one, I tear off the petals and throw them into the fire I light in the old metal drum. I watch them burn, feeling each flame as a small revenge against all who betrayed me. When the last petal turns to ash, I feel something shift inside me, a closure finally sealing, a wound cauterized. David is dead, whatever the truth about his life. Emily is gone with her lover, living the consequences of her choices. And I'm here on the ranch I helped build with my son and grandson, rebuilding a life from the pieces left by others. In the months that follow, life takes on a new normal. Michael starts recovering slowly, throwing himself into the ranch and Daniel. The boy goes back and forth to Seattle as agreed, always returning with stories about his mother's new life, but never mentioning any special friend. Eventually, Michael meets Sarah, the new science teacher at Daniel's school. She's different from Emily in every way. Warm, open, unpretentious. I watch their relationship bloom slowly with the caution of someone deeply hurt. "Do you think I'm moving too fast?" Michael asks one night after mentioning he invited Sarah to dinner with us. "No," I answer honestly. "I think you deserve to be happy, and she seems like a good person." "Different from Emily," he murmurs. "Yes, different from Emily." I hesitate, then add, "Not everyone is capable of loving the way we deserve Michael. That doesn't mean the problem is ours." He nods thoughtfully. "You know, for years I blamed myself for Emily's distance. Thought I wasn't good enough, didn't understand her enough. Now I realize some people just aren't built for love and loyalty. How I wish I could tell him he's right, that Emily was never capable of true love, that she betrayed not just him, but all of us. But I keep my secret as I promised. Sarah's coming to dinner tomorrow. Hope that's okay." "Of course it is." I smile. "I'll make that roast you love." Dinner with Sarah is pleasant, natural. She's a smart kind woman, the type who talks to adults and kids with the same respect. I watch how she interacts with Daniel, how she makes him feel heard and important. "Your family is wonderful," she says later as I serve coffee on the porch. Michael went inside to help Daniel with a science project model. "Thanks. They're my life." She smiles a genuine smile, no calculations behind it. "Michael talks about you a lot, about how you've been his rock, especially since the divorce." I try my best. "He told me about David too, about how he died suddenly. Must have been awful for you." I look at the distant mountains bathed in the setting sun. It was. Losing someone you love always is, but over time you learn to live with the pain, with the truth, however hard. Sarah seems like the kind of person who'd never lie, like Emily, never betray, like David. Part of me wants to warn her, protect her from what I know about the fragility of relationships, about how people can hide whole parts of themselves behind smiles and promises. But she'll have to discover that on her own, in her own way. One fall afternoon, almost a year after discovering the truth about David, I get a letter. The envelope has no sender, but the postmark is from Portland. Inside a short note. "Linda Emily wanted me to write to let you know Daniel met me last summer. She introduced me as a friend, nothing more. He didn't notice any resemblance to David, probably because he was so young when he passed. I also wanted you to know we understand and respect your decision to keep our secret. I know I did nothing to earn your discretion, but I'm eternally grateful for it. Lastly, I wanted to tell you that though I never really knew David, I always felt a void in me that was only filled when I learned of his existence. I wish circumstances had been different, that we could have been a real family. Richard." I stare at the letter for a long time, emotions warring inside me. Rage, sadness, a strange compassion for this man who is and isn't my husband. Finally, I do what needs to be done. I tear the letter into tiny pieces and burn them just like I did with the roses. Another chapter closed. That night I dream of David. Not the David who betrayed me, but the man I believed he was all those years. In the dream, we're young again, dancing at the old barn party where we met. He smiles at me, that smile that always made me feel like the only woman in the world. "Were you real?" I ask in the dream. "Did the man I loved truly exist? The dream David just keeps smiling, twirling me in the dance without answering. And maybe that's the hardest truth to accept. I'll never know. Never know if our whole marriage was a farce, or if there were real moments of love amid the lies. I wake with tears in my eyes, but also a strange sense of peace. Maybe it doesn't matter anymore. The past is buried along with all its truths and lies. What matters is the future I still have ahead. 2 years pass. Life on the ranch takes on a new rhythm. Michael and Sarah get married in a simple ceremony in our home gardens. Daniel, now 15, is a teen split between two worlds: the quiet life on the ranch with his dad and new stepmom, and visits to Seattle and occasionally Portland to see Emily. He rarely talks about those visits when he returns, and I never press him. Part of me fears what he might discover eventually. Would he notice Richard's resemblance to the photos of David that still adorn our house? Would he ask questions we couldn't answer honestly? One summer night while we prepare dinner together, Daniel finally brings up the topic I dread. "Grandma, do you know Richard?" My heart skips, but I keep my face neutral as I keep chopping vegetables. "Richard? Who's Richard?" "Mom's boyfriend. They've been together for a while." "I thought maybe you knew him. From before." I choose my words carefully. "No, sweetie. I've never met any of your mom's friends in Portland. He's nice to me. Knows a lot about the ranch, actually. Says he grew up on a farm in Texas." Another lie, I think. Richard had grown up in Houston, according to his story. One more layer of falsehood in a life built on deceptions. "Mom looks happy with him," Daniel continues. "Happier than she was with Dad, I think." People change, Daniel. They find what they need at different times in life. The words come out bitter, but I try to soften them with a smile. "It's weird, though." He hesitates. "Sometimes when I look at Richard, he reminds me of someone. I can't place who." I freeze. "Really? Maybe it's just one of those random resemblances." "Maybe." He shrugs, losing interest. "Can I call Claire to come over tomorrow? We promised to work on the science project together." I breathe a sigh of relief at the topic change. "Sure you can." That night, I can't sleep. Daniel's words echo in my mind. He's starting to notice the resemblance. It's only a matter of time before he makes the connection. What then? Would he confront Emily Richard, talk to Michael? The truth I've guarded so carefully for years could explode at any moment, causing even greater destruction than if I'd revealed it from the start. The next morning, I wake determined to do something about it. I can't let Daniel discover the truth on his own, without context, without preparation. It'd be too devastating. I wait until Michael and Sarah head to town and Daniel's at a friend's. Then I pick up the phone and dial the number I've never used, but Emily left for emergencies. She answers on the third ring, her voice cautious. "Linda, did something happen with Daniel?" "No, he's fine, but we need to talk about Richard." Silence on the other end. Then a sigh. "What happened?" Daniel's starting to notice the resemblance. He told me last night that Richard reminds him of someone, just can't place who. "It was bound to happen," she replies, her voice surprisingly resigned. "He's growing up observing more, and David's photos are everywhere in your house." "What do we do when he figures it out? When he asks why his mom's boyfriend looks exactly like his dead grandfather?" "We've thought about that." She hesitates. "Richard and I, we have a story ready." What story could possibly explain that? A partial truth that Richard is a distant relative of David, a second cousin I met by chance in Seattle. The resemblance explains the family tie, and no one needs to know about the affair about the full truth. "And you think he'll buy that Michael will?" Such a convenient coincidence. What's the alternative? Telling the whole truth now would only cause more pain. It'd destroy Daniel's image of David, the memory Michael holds of his father. For what? She's right, as much as I hate to admit it. Revealing everything now after so long wouldn't bring any good, just more pain, more confusion. "You should have thought of that before," I say bitterly. "Before bringing Richard into Daniel's life, before risking this whole situation." "I know, but I can't change the past, Linda. Only try to do better now." I hang up without goodbye frustration consuming me. I'm trapped in a web of lies I didn't create, but now I'm complicit in. 2 weeks later, Michael comes home with an expression I haven't seen since the divorce, a mix of shock, confusion, and anger. "Mom," he says, his voice shaking, "Emily called. She wants to bring her boyfriend to meet the family on Daniel's next visit. Says it's serious between them, they might get married." My blood turns cold. "And what did you say?" "What could I say? Daniel seems to like the guy, and she has a right to move on." He runs a hand through his hair, a gesture so like David's, it makes my heart ache. It's just weird, you know, thinking of her with another man. "I know, sweetie." I put a hand on his shoulder. "When would they come?" "Next month for Daniel's birthday. Wants us to be civilized. One big, happy, dysfunctional family." He laughs without humor. "A month. I have a month to prepare for the inevitable. To meet Richard Thompson, officially my dead husband's twin brother, the man now with my son's ex-wife." "You okay with that, Mom? I know it must be weird for you, too." "Of course." I lie. "Like you said, everyone moves on." In truth, I'm terrified. How will I react to seeing Richard in person again? How will I keep my composure, pretend I'm meeting him for the first time when his face has haunted me for years? When the day finally arrives, I spend hours mentally preparing. I rehearse smiles, handshakes, polite conversation, all to avoid the breakdown I fear. Daniel is excited for his 16th birthday, running around the house checking party prep. Michael and Sarah are in the kitchen finishing the cake. I'm on the porch trying to calm my nerves when I hear the car arriving. The silver sedan parks, and Emily gets out first, impeccable as always. And then he steps out. Richard. Older now, grayer, but still impossibly like David, dressed in a simple blue shirt and jeans, the kind David wore on weekends at the ranch. My stomach churns at the sight. Daniel runs to hug his mom and greet Richard with an enthusiastic handshake. Michael appears at the door, takes a deep breath, and walks over to welcome them. Sarah right behind, supporting quietly. And then it's my turn. "Linda," Emily says formally, "this is Richard Sullivan. Richard, this is Linda, Michael's mother." Richard extends his hand, his face a mask of polite indifference, as if we're truly meeting for the first time. "It's a pleasure to finally meet you, Mrs. Thompson. Emily and Daniel talk about you a lot." I shake his hand briefly, feeling like I'm in a surreal nightmare. "Welcome to our home." His eyes, David's eyes, meet mine for a moment. Is there a silent plea for forgiveness? Or just my imagination, desperate for some sign of remorse? Michael eyes Richard with curiosity, but no recognition. Why would he? The last time he clearly saw his father, Richard was weakened by cancer, much thinner and paler than David ever was. "Let's go inside," he says, finally breaking the tense moment. Daniel's eager to open presents. The afternoon unfolds like a play where everyone performs carefully rehearsed roles. Emily, the cordial ex-wife, Michael, the mature ex-husband, Sarah, the understanding new wife, Richard, the polite new boyfriend, me, the welcoming host. Only Daniel is genuine, moving between us all, with his 16-year-old energy, oblivious to the underlying tension. At one point, I find myself alone in the kitchen with Richard. He's washing some glasses while I put away food leftovers. The silence is deafening. "Are you okay?" he asks finally, his voice low so no one hears. "What an absurd question," I reply without looking at him. "How could I be okay with all this? I know it's hard for all of us. For all of you." I turn, unable to contain the rage. "You and Emily chose this. Michael, Daniel, and I are just trying to survive the fallout from your choices." He lowers his head. "You're right. I have no excuses to offer." He hesitates, then continues, "But I want you to know I take good care of Emily and of Daniel when he's with us. I know it means nothing to you, but I try to be a better man than my brother was." "You didn't really know David," I reply coldly. "You don't know what kind of man he was." "I know enough." His eyes, David's eyes, meet mine again. "I know he betrayed you, betrayed his own son. I know he planned to abandon you all. I know he didn't value what he had. And you're so different getting involved with your nephew's wife." He has no answer for that. We return to the living room in silence where Daniel opens his presents with enthusiasm. I watch Michael throughout the afternoon, looking for any sign he notices something off about Richard. But he seems genuinely oblivious, treating Emily's new partner with polite distance, nothing more. When the party ends and everyone prepares to leave, Michael surprises us all. "Emily, Richard, could you stay a bit longer? There's something I'd like to discuss." My heart races. Does he know? Has he figured it out somehow? Emily looks equally alarmed. "Sure, Michael. What's up?" He glances at Daniel, chatting animatedly with Sarah across the room. "It's about Daniel's school, actually. Got a call from the counselor yesterday." Relief is immediate. It's just about Daniel, about school. Nothing about Richard, about secrets, about past betrayals. As the three discuss Daniel's grades, his college plans, his recent teen rebellion, I watch Richard. He's completely at ease, chiming in on education, on discipline, like he has every right to join those family decisions, like he's part of the family. And then something terrible hits me. He is part of the family. In a twisted, perverse way, Richard is as connected to us as anyone. David's blood runs in his veins. He's Michael's uncle, Daniel's great-uncle, a Thompson, even if he carries another last name. When they finally leave, I feel like I've survived a natural disaster, exhausted, shaking, but whole. "Emily's boyfriend seems like a decent guy," Michael comments later as we tidy the house. "Older than I expected, but he treats her and Daniel well." I reply vaguely. "It's funny," he continues. "There's something familiar about him. Can't place what." I stop what I'm doing, alarmed. "Familiar how?" Michael shrugs. "I don't know. Maybe just the way he talks. Reminds me a bit of Dad, actually." "All men of a certain age sound similar," I reply hastily, "especially from the South." He laughs. "I guess so. Anyway, it's good to see Emily happy, and good to see Daniel adjusting well to the whole situation." That night before sleep, I reflect on the strange family we've become, connected not just by blood and marriage, but by secrets, by shared lies, by buried truths. Richard and Emily will never be just my daughter-in-law's ex and her new boyfriend. They're the keepers of a truth that could destroy everything Michael and I fought to rebuild after the initial betrayal. And me, I'm the only bridge between those two worlds, the only one who knows the whole story, the full extent of the betrayal, and lies the only one carrying the weight of all the secrets. It's a heavy burden for a 70-year-old woman, but oddly, it also gives me a kind of power. The power to protect my family from the cruel truth, the power to let Michael and Daniel preserve their memories intact, the power to maintain the fragile peace we've built on the ruins of so many betrayals. I close my eyes, imagining David, the real David, not the idealized version I kept for so many years, nor the monstrous one revealed by recent discoveries. Just David, the flawed, complicated man who was my husband, who was Michael's father, who made devastating mistakes and died before he could fix them or make them worse. "Rest in peace," I whisper into the darkness. Whoever you really were. Now, if you liked this story, hit subscribe and tell me in the comments what part left you speechless. Oh, and don't forget to become a member for access to exclusive videos I don't post here. I'll see you there.